Yeah. Okay, so what we are going to talk about now is how we describe our ideas. Um, and actually, in assignment one, group assignment one, you will use uh, three methods for describing your idea. It's scenarios, it's visioning, and the contextual analysis. Um, Maybe I should show you right away the really nice figure I made. I'm so excited about it, so I want to show it to you. It's this one. Can you see it? Is it? Yeah. Okay, so this is actually an overview of what you're going to do in assignment one. I draw it because it was easier for me to draw it with a pen and on a paper than in Visio or something. So, oh, it's the last one, almost the last one, last slide. Yeah. Yeah, because now I'm so excited to show it to you. Okay, so you have the line here in assignment one, yeah? And this line tells you this is the life without the software, life before you had some tools that you were designing. And this is the life of the people, the users, after having the software you're suggesting. Okay? So you have to think about the line there. So you're actually analyzing user groups before they have the software you're suggesting. You're making a personas, just describing their daily life, how they live, and so on. And you are making scenarios of their life, you know, how they, what problems they have, what uh, user goals they have. And you make two scenarios for each persona, meaning that one scenario is very positive and the other one is when this persona has some problem. We will go through how a scenario is in a moment. Okay, and then you are helping them. So you want to suggest some software for each user group. So the whole picture here is drawn for a group that is working. You know, you have 3 students working in this group. So that's why you have 3 user groups. If you're 4, you have 4. Okay. So you suggest one. You make a vision of a software for this user group. And then you support this vision with scenarios describing how the life is when they've got the software. So how is life after getting the software? And also this context analysis is when they've got the software. So this is actually all the deliverables you have to do for group assignment 1. Okay? But the line is really, it's, you know, shifting from having the new software and not. And what I was saying here, yeah, somewhere, here. You will use scenarios to describe both life how it is today without the software and after, but visioning and context is used when they've got the new idea. This is for it's describing new ideas of a new software. Scenarios, we begin yeah, I would like to describe that first because you're using that both before and after. And it's an informal narrative description. It's actually a story. And this definition is from this book, Rapid Contextual Design. It's a description of a particular task performed by a persona told in a story as though it were actually observed. Yeah, no, as it were actual observed behavior. So you're actually trying to tell how this persona is reacting. And the fundamental thing is that, you know, people like to tell stories and like to hear stories, and it's easy to emphasize with um, or empathize. I mean, you know, like feel how this persona is thinking and reacting through the story. So it's very related to personas, and often you have the name of the personas in the scenarios. So this could be a scenario. We have the couple there. They're retired. They want to. They are, you know, they sold the big house and moved to a small apartment. So you know a little, you know, you get more and more information about them, and you can sort of because they're old, they're school teachers. They're probably very detailed, you know, very scheduled. So you start to think about, you know, like feel the people through the story. Um, yeah, so they don't know where the nearest social security office is, and it's getting hard for them to walk, and da, 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 da. Yeah, and then you know, they have a situation there, and we are then trying to uh, because all the constraints that they say, they, you know, they are reluctant to give out personal information, and so when we get more information on how we can help them, if we are trying to design a web for them, we have to really think about this. How can we make them trust the website, and how can we help them? Okay. So the goal of a scenario is to describe the user goals in a story. So this is something that they want to achieve, and we should use the words that the user uses daily. Uh, and the strength is that it's actually easy. If we have old people, we could ask them to read this and then ask them, do you recognize this situation? Um, is this really that? And often, actually, we have talked to these people, and we are describing a situation that we have experienced through maybe interviews or meetings or something, and we can then write it in a story and go to them and say, is this really describing your situation? And it's easy for them to understand. It's just like a story. It's much easier than understanding a use case, because use case is more like um, prerequisites and da, da, da. It's more system oriented. Yeah, so through the scenarios, it's easy to create a discussion forum, both with the users and also with the people developing the software. So it is supposed to be a detailed description. If it's used when you have the software, it should be a description of the situation, including the software, but we are also using it describing a situation when you don't have the software. So how do you do a scenario? You have to gather information on the user goals by doing interviews or observing users, and then structure the results according to the user goals. And then, write each scenario, and then test the scenarios, show it to users. We have 4 types of scenarios, and you are using all 4 of them in assignment 1. There are scenarios called task scenarios, and these describe the current use of something. It could be, if we refer to my beautiful drawing there, it could be that you have an old computer system here. So this is like the old situation, or the current situation. Either you have a computer system that is not working, you have problems with it, and you're going to make a new one, or you have like a situation now not having anything, not having any system, and then you have the new situation. Okay. So the task scenarios we say here somewhere are describing the current situation. And they describe a step by step what needs to be done to reach the user goals today. Then we have the other type called use scenarios. So it describes the future use, above the line there, the new situation. And both task and use scenarios are grounded in the user goals and are used to illustrate how the situation is. For the use scenarios, it's the situation including the new system and how it will be used by the user. So here we have these 2 types, but then we have also 2 types of the scenario. So plus scenario is like the most positive scenario. So everything goes as planned. And this could be both in the old situation or the current situation and in the new situation. So everything just works smoothly. Sometimes it's called the happy path, it just runs. And then you have the minus scenario, and this is maybe what we can learn from. So this is when everything doesn't work. There's some problems. Maybe the system doesn't work, or the user does, some mistakes, or he has problems in his daily life, even though he doesn't have a system, he has problems in reaching his goals. And this could also, even though you have the new system, you have to think about, okay, but what could be a minus scenario, even though you have this new system? How would the system react if the user does mistakes or has some problems? So I am actually asking you to make 1 plus scenario and 1 minus scenario for both the current and the future situations for each of the user groups. So you make a lot of scenarios in project 1. And as you see, scenarios and use cases, these are actually 2 different ways of describing the system use. You look at the user groups and you define the user goals, and then you have 2 ways of describing. Either you could use you can use scenarios, tell a story, or you could make a use case for the same user goal. So these are just like 2 ways of doing this. And here we are actually here I'm illustrating the difference. Use cases are more like tasks or actions. Like you have to do this first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is typically the description for a use case. But a scenario is more like telling a story about one particular person and some situation. So it's more like an example, but this is more like this has to be done in general. Both can be good. If you're talking to users, scenarios are easier. It's much easier to involve users in this way. And then they would maybe say, no, I don't do it in this order, or I usually do this. And once I was doing this, and then I do. So they give you maybe another example. But it's much harder for them to read like a general description. And if you would get a general description of how you make coffee, like, okay, first, I don't know how I do it, like, okay, I go to the machine, I know that, and then I can't remember if I first take this out and then get the coffee, or get the coffee first, or, and probably differs and so on. So, and I would probably forget one thing that I just do. It's just in my body. So it is hard for users often to tell how they do things also in the computer system. Visioning. This is also a way to describe a new system. And this is like an illustrative drawing of a new idea. And this particular vision is an example from this course. These were students in 2012 that made this. And I have to tell you that Google Translate was not online at this moment. So this was more original back then than it is now. So they actually had this vision for a system called Gobblefish. So you're a tourist, you come to Iceland, you go to Hallgrímskirkja, the main church, and you're thirsty and go to a coffee and you don't understand the menu. So you need some app for translating. So you just put your phone over the menu and you'll go get the translation right away. So you'll get your wine and you're happy. Mm-hmm. And then it's a little bit like a cartoon of how you use the system. This is another one, another example from the same course. And then when you've iterated the vision, you can make it more like structured and maybe include a little bit of the screenshots and so on. So this is here we call it a consolidated vision, where you've actually gathered many ideas into one. And then this was what they illustrated in a more like detailed form. And I really like their example. This is really, really important to know what means for tourists. So, and like I said, these years ago, Google Translate was not that easy. I don't think it was running, or even at least it was not that much used. So this was more original idea then. So a vision, it's a hand-drawn graphical representation. It's like a high-level story, but it's in drawing, not words, but more like drawing. And it describes also the environment and how it works, and it's told from the user's point of view. So it should include possible changes in technology, maybe user interface functions, some business goals, and processes. But um, remember that this should be like the whole vision of the whole system, not just one user goal or one user group. It should be for all the user groups. Like we are now going to make this app for many people, and it should really describe the whole thing. So, and it could also include help and training and everything. And when you're making a vision, we have some roles. So there's one that should be the pen, the person who draws. And then poker is the person that should really check if everything is covered, and help to ensure that the story is really complete. So the poker is really focusing on that, on the result. And when you're making a vision, and this is from the book, and this is the strength about the book, they really give you detailed information about how to use the methods that they describe. So you can always go back to the book like some years later and find really thorough tasks and actions for how to do things, how to use the methods. So they say, okay, you have to find that flip chart. You have to have some yellow notes, one blue pen for each person, and tape, and then paper to write pluses and minuses. And then you have to decide when, who, and where. And it's good to be 4 to 8 people. And tomorrow you will be doing a vision in the problem solving class. I want you to be 6 or 7 in each group. And I will bring these, the yellow notes and the blue pens and all of that. So we have decided when and who and where. It's the problem solving class tomorrow. You will do this. And then when you start, it is actually a storytelling process, and everybody should participate. So you try to add to the story, and you're making a story of the users performing some tasks with the new technology that you want to build. It could also include some manual things, but it's more, it is actually focused on the software. So it's a story of the entire work practice or live activity. And they say it takes 20 to 30 minutes to do one vision. So you would actually tomorrow do 2 visions. It will take maybe 40 minutes for each of them, like one section for each of them, because you maybe need more time because you haven't done this before. So the pen is the one that draws, and the other are telling the story. So and then the poker participates, but is also keeping an eye of the issues. And the rules are that you're not supposed to be negative. There's no evaluation. Everything is allowed. You will do the evaluation later. So whenever somebody says something, you just says yes, yes, yeah. Oh, okay. So it's really a brainstorming. So it's not a discussion. It's more like it's time for all to create the story and how things will work in the future. And then you can make this will not be the only vision you ever make. You can make a new one if you don't like this one later on. So this is more like getting the ideas going. There are also some parameters that you need to define: the technology platform, and the business constraints. So if you're working for a company, you of course need to know the business goals and uh, whether you're designing a product or an internal system, the value that is expected from the software, and so on. And then also the expected time frame until shipment to be able to sort of have the vision sizable for that. So when you're making this, the vision, the first thing you do is to brainstorm a list of ideas. And then you choose one to start uh, uh, writing, drawing. And if you can't agree which one to start on, you just vote, and then you have this idea to start on, and you draw that one. So the first thing, when you're drawing, you write a name for it, and the pen says, "Okay, who am I, and what am I doing?" So he's saying, "Okay, who is the user, and what is the user goal?" Um, and then you start drawing. And this is really, really important, having a vision. It is actually, if you really can't describe what the goal to make the system is, why are you making the system? What is the really that you want to achieve? It's maybe better to just cancel it on this stage. Yeah, this wise guy said, if you're working on something exciting that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. So you really have this vision, and it's dragging you all the way. But I've seen it in my research that there are many commenting on that the team need to have like a vision that they are all going through. So they can't have like various visions. Each team member has his own vision. The team has to have like a collaborative vision. And I think making it illustrative like this, making it visible, drawing it is a nice way of doing it. I think it's easy to understand the whole idea. And actually, I'm very visual. So I think actually this is easier to comprehend than like this. This is, for me, this is more like a um, bunch of words. But, I know people are different in this way. But I really think that illustrating and describing an idea in this illustrative and visual way is a good way of doing it. Um, and my students have really liked this. We have been practicing this for many years in the class, and so I hope you like it tomorrow to do this. Here are more examples from students. So you see, they are thinking about the process. They think about both a computer. This is a desktop computer, but also, I don't know if this is a calculator or this is probably a calculator. Yeah, so they are really thinking the flow here. This is another one where they include the home and the database, and so in this one they include more of the technology and other systems. Yeah, and here are more examples. So you see the user there. The user is always very happy. That's good. Okay. So it's a high-level story of the user's new practice, and try to include more than one user group in the vision. The vision is a holistic view, the big picture. The vision describes what is in the new environment and how it works, as told from the user's point of view. And you have to also include the context of use. Which equipment is the user using? In what environment will the user be? And so on. The vision describes how the new product, system, or service fits into the big picture. So the users may be, like we saw with the contextual personas, the users may be using 20 systems, and this is the system number, 21st system that this particular user is going to use. And how will it then fit? And will your system talk to any of those systems, or will it be totally, isolated? And so all the vision should also state that it's not only about this one system and just focusing on that. It is meant to be a wider view in some sense. So it doesn't only describe a particular, you don't take like one user goal and make a vision for that. It is really a 5,000 feet vision. And then when we have made some visions, we could make some of them for, like first we make one and we are not that happy about it, so we make another one. Maybe this is a better idea. We could take from the list that we brainstormed or something. And then when this brainstorming session is over, drawing these visions and being really positive and not evaluating everything, we can evaluate the visions. So we could take like a time slot for doing that. Yeah, okay, so here, like these four, these were made by the same students. So they are describing four different ideas here. And then you could take like this one and say, okay, what are the positive things here? Maybe the positive thing is that it is really included in everything in the daily life or something. So you make the pluses, and also write the minuses, what is not good about this idea. And you make it for all of them, pluses and minuses. And then you can pick the one that you would like to go further and develop further. You could actually take maybe pluses from here and here and the other ones and make ones consolidated. Yeah. Mm? Okay. To support the vision, you mean? That you could maybe have a text to support the vision. What technology is it including? Yeah. Yes, this is a very good question. So actually, you do it in project one. You do it with this with this context analysis, which is here, and we haven't covered yet, but you are describing the technology used there. So yeah, it's very good to have some material that describes it more clearly than in the drawing. What technology needs to be used. Yeah. Okay. So we were talking about the evaluation of the visions. You take the pluses. So you think about, okay, what is supporting the user's work in this vision? Is the design technically possible? Has it sale potentials? Is it doable? And then you could also think about the minuses, and these are actually um, the invert of the pluses. So you think about, is there something in this design that doesn't support the work? Is there something that isn't technically doable? Is there some design there that has low sales? So you evaluate the pluses and minuses of each vision, and so you take like this first vision here, you write, okay, the pluses with this vision is that it supports very well the 3 main user goals, blah, 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 something. And then the minus is something. And you do that for all of them. And then you're able to make a consolidated vision, which actually eliminates the negatives and reinforces the positives. So the consolidated vision, here's an example from the book. And we had also an example here. Where was this one? This was on a consolidated vision. So this was actually built from more than, they began making 4 visions, and then they made the consolidated vision. Okay. So you could make, you make for the consolidated vision, you make a new vision that combines the part from each of the other versions, and you can combine some ideas from the visions. And you should write also the assumptions that you have. So you could write a text that describes that. And they say 2 persons should be able to do a consolidated vision in 4 hours. And this is directly from the book. So the book, the authors of the book, they are very practical. They are working in the industry, and they give you some advice like this because they know, they have been using the methods themselves. Okay, I think we stop here because, so this is an example from the book also, or from the authors at least, I think. Yeah, I think we stop here because I would like to have more time for context analysis, so I will do that Thursday. Give you a lecture on this, and but tomorrow you will be doing visioning in the problem solving class. So thank you for attending so many today, and I'm looking forward to meet you tomorrow to do the visioning.